MRC Records.
Thanks for joining us here on CBN4 for the CBN4 exclusive. And this interview for all those of you who are headed to college or even may have students in need of financial assistance. You'll want to stay tuned. I have a special guest who will tell us how that's possible. Stay right here to CBN4. I'm Sheena Harry. And welcome back to CBN4. Thanks again for joining us for this exclusive. And today we're going to be talking to Mrs. Dorothy Levy, who is a member of the BB Trust Foundation. And Mrs. Levy, you're here to tell our viewers all about the BB Trust. Now, I admittedly told you earlier, I know very little about the BB Trust. Well, I didn't until I got ready for the interview, though. And, you know, this is a foundation that is doing so much good work. However, not many people know what the BB Trust is all about. So tell our viewers, what is the BB Trust?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you, Sheena, for having me. And I really want to give the story behind the BB Trust. It all started when a French lady by the name of Nicole Boucher decided to come to Dominica. She loved traveling. She had been to several countries. But when she came to Dominica, she thought she had found a treasure. She made repeated visits, during which time she had become very good friends with Norris Prevost and his family. And during one such visit, she discussed with him the idea of assisting Dominican students who were not able financially to attend the state college. After several discussions, trustees were appointed and the idea of setting up a trust fund was born. So she then met with a few of us whom she thought, you know, would be suitable trustees. And that was the beginning of the BB Trust. That was in 1994.
Oh, wow. So you've been in existence for so many years and obviously helping so many students.
Yes. Now, as I said, Nicole loved Dominica. And that's why she decided, well, to use a cliche, to put her money where she thought her treasure was. And she thought Dominica had so much potential. Sure. So, first of all, she hoped that Dominica would retain that aspect of its greenery. She hoped that Dominica would be able to provide sufficient food to feed its people. She also saw Dominica as a place where the tourists could come and really have a kind of healthy experience. So in light of that, she then came up with the idea of helping students who wanted to major at the college in the relevant subject areas. So first of all, we provide scholarships then for students who want to major in agriculture, students who want to major in French, because she, as a French person, she also thought because we were situated between the two French islands, it would be really something, you know, quite relevant to study the French language. Also hospitality studies and environment. So these areas then would be beneficial if students would major in them. So that is why we offer scholarships to students who want to major in these subject areas.
Now, before the college became the Dominica State College, now if this trust started way back in the 90s, a lot of these subject areas were not even offered back then. So now it's quite appropriate, or even quite, you know, fortunate that now the students can actually major in a lot more of these subject areas, including hospitality, because that's not something that used to be offered when we used to be, you know, the Clifton Dupini Community College.
Yes,
So
in fact, well, as I said, Nicole enjoyed her visits to Dominica, and she would often speak about, for example, well, she saw the potential in exporting bottled water. Then she also thought, hey, why not have like health spas? You know, she would discuss those topics. She also saw the possibility perhaps one day of making our own perfumes. You know, so she would go on at length about Dominica. So she was a very, very interesting lady. She would visit with her son, Thierry. Thierry, unfortunately, died a few years after the trust was set up. But she continued her interest in Dominica. And the sum she deposited was set up in a trust fund at the National Bank. And we have been using the interest then to supply, scholarships to finance the studies of the students.
now, about how many scholarships would you say you've already disbursed since
Well,
then?
so far we have given over 100 scholarships. The program at the college is a 2-year program in most of the areas, but recently some subject areas have become 3-year programs. So if a student started off the 2-year, which was then turned into 3, we also finance the third year. Yes, yes.
Perfect. Now, you spoke about her meeting with you. Now, that's the group of you. And from the way that you speak of her, it sounds that you developed a close relationship. But tell me, who else is on that board with you?
Okay, so initially we had, well, of course, as I said, Norris Prevost, because he was a close friend.
Right.
And the other trustees currently are Felix Wilson, Vernice Belloni, well, Janelle Prevost, whom Madame Boucher had met and really liked because of her, you know, kind of initiative, her industry, so Janelle Prevost, and Gordon Morrow, who died a few years, you know, after the trust was set up.
All right. Now, tell us a little bit more about the scholarship. How much is being offered each year? Is it an annual scholarship, or do you go biannually because the courses are 2-year courses?
Okay, no. Every student who is awarded a scholarship is entitled to $1,800 per year. So what we do, we ensure that the college fees are first paid, and then whatever is left over, the student obtains that amount, which she can use towards books or transportation costs. So it's $1,800 annually.
All right. And how do people go about applying for that scholarship? Is there particular criteria besides the subject area that you want to study? What is the criteria?
Well, first of all, the student has to gain admission to the college. So that is why when people apply, they're asked to provide a letter, an acceptance letter from the college. Some students give us provisional acceptance. I think during that first year, the students are supposed to, well, improve their rating in mathematics, sometimes English as well. But we still finance that year, hoping that the student, of course, will gain full unconditional acceptance at the end of the first year.
Now, do you expect them to turn in reports then after every semester or after every year?
They're supposed to have at least a 2.5 grade point average. And there are some cases where we consider on a case-by-case basis. Okay, if a student had been sick or if something happened which you know, caused the student not to perform at maximum potential.
Okay, so how do you go about applying though? Is it that do you do an interview? How do you go about applying, and how do you go about deciding who receives the scholarship?
Okay, depending on how many applicants we have an interview, or if there are, let's say, very few, then we award the scholarships to all. But generally, students can pick up forms from the Prevost Cinema Hall and fill out the forms, as I said, really, the forms must be accompanied by the acceptance letter from the college. And we also ask students for a letter from someone in their community, someone who knows them very well, certifying that they really are in need of financial assistance.
Okay,
so that is important.
All right, Mrs. Levy, we have a lot more to discuss and a lot more by way of enlightening the general public about the BB Trust, but we'll do that after this quick break.
Okay.
And stay tuned to CBN4. I'm Sheena Harry. This, of course, is an exclusive. We're talking to Mrs. Dorothy Levy with the BB Trust Fund. Stay right here. And welcome back to the CBN4 exclusive. Once again, I'm Sheena Harry, and joining me, Mrs. Dorothy Levy with the BB Trust Fund. And we were just speaking before the break about the Trust Fund, speaking about the scholarships that are being offered for education at the Dominica State College. Now, Mrs. Levy, of course, with scholarships becomes the need for financing. So tell us, how does the BB Trust, you mentioned earlier that from the onset, a certain amount of money was placed in an account and the interest was accrued. But now, where do you stand in terms of financing with the BB Trust?
Okay, Sheena, well, let me say that so far we have disbursed over $300,000. That surpasses the original investment somehow. But again, I can't stop praising the foresight of Madame Boucher, who really genuinely wanted to help students. I mean, just picture a lady coming to Dominica because she loved the place. She just decided to invest some of her money, appointed some trustees, and hoped that it would continue, that we Dominicans would continue it. Let me speak further of her generosity. Besides that original investment, she also thought that it would be important if Dominica could establish its own hospitality training center. And she looked around at various buildings. Her eye fell on the Winsky building on King George V Street. I mean, I tell you, she was a marvelous woman. But then there were various challenges in obtaining that building. So she provided funds then for the trust to purchase the building opposite the cenotaph, where Old Stone Grill and Bar now is. So that building belongs to the BB Trust. So she purchased that building and hoped that the income from renting that building would also assist further in financing scholarships for students. But of course, I mean, even if we can say that we do have the income, I mean, money has limits, you know. So it is hoped that students who have benefited from the trust and even well-wishers would also donate towards the trust so that we can continue giving scholarships and financing the different areas that students apply for.
So do you get any assistance right now from either the private or public sector with the trust?
No, so far. And perhaps the trust is continuing its work because we, the trustees, I mean, we don't get a salary, it's all volunteer work, and we're happy to do it to assist our Dominican students.
All right, so is this a call then that you're making for that assistance
well, it
from
could be taken,
either the private
as,
or public sector to help the students?
It could be seen as a call, really, if people want to come on board and assist, really. You know, we speak of Dominica as a treasure, so they too, like Madame Boucher, could assist where they think that the treasure lies.
Invest in that treasure. Well, Also, Mrs. Levy, how about, you spoke about offering scholarships to the Dominica State College. Is it the intention of the trust, though, probably later on, to broaden that as far as where the what schools or what degrees that people can obtain with that scholarship?
Okay, right now, I know one of the trustees, Mr. Wilson, is pursuing contact with a hospitality school in Trinidad, which is affiliated with the University of the West Indies. We hope that it would come about that we could have a sort of hospitality training school right here, which would be accredited really with the school in UWI, so that, I mean, students could be trained and they could do their practicals right here in Dominica and then get the associate degree or get whatever really credits that the school in Trinidad would furnish. So we are pursuing that angle at the moment.
Okay. And let's talk about, what about even internationally, though? Is that something that you would like to see happen with the BB Trust, that scholarships can be offered for schools for international studies?
It depends on the subject areas, again, the availability of funding. And, you know, it's good to say that we give scholarships, but sometimes it can be disheartening when you give scholarships and then the people don't turn back to help. While you want to give scholarships so people can further their education, the ultimate aim is to help the society, you know, to improve conditions here. And if the scholarships are given and no one returns, then it almost seems as though that we have, well, almost wasted the funds in a sense.
Now, Mrs. Levy, you were an educator for many years, so this is something near and dear to your heart, offering scholarships to students. And I'm sure you've seen many of the students that you've worked with who have probably come back to help. So that's something that you've been encouraging for some time.
Oh, yes. I mean, as I say, that I was also an island scholar, but because of certain conditions, I mean, at the time, I had received another scholarship to pursue studies in the US and Canada. So I gave up the island scholarship because, I mean, I had other options. But although I was not bonded in any way, my aim was always to return to Dominica. And I'm happy I did.
Well, Mrs. Levy, we'll talk a little more after the break, a little more about the BB Trust and to encourage others to get involved with the BB Trust. But first, let's take a quick break. And viewers, we thank you as always for joining us on CBN4. Stay tuned for more. Welcome back to the CBN4 exclusive. Sheena Harry with you and with me, Mrs. Dorothy Levy of the BB Trust Fund. And Mrs. Levy, let's get back into encouraging people to apply, because you mentioned that over the years, over $300,000 worth of scholarships have been donated to various students. However, the applicants, they're not that many. And what do students need to know about the application process to motivate them into applying?
We had a session with the principals of the secondary schools. Actually, they had a meeting with the education division, and at that time we came to the school, we came to the meeting, and we spoke of the BB Trust. We hope that principals themselves would encourage the students to apply. You know, very often we are not sufficiently interested in our own education. And here it is, here's the opportunity for people to get scholarships. At the end of the day, maybe people will sit back and say they don't have the money, or they expect the college to allow them to write exams when they have not paid their fees. But how interested, how active are they in really looking after their own education? So once again, I will just say that yes, we would like as many applicants as possible. So please bring in your application form. We will interview you, and if you meet the criteria, we will then award the scholarship. So we do have the funds as of now, and we encourage people then to apply.
Now, is there a deadline for application for each school year?
Yes, the deadline this year is August 31st.
Okay, so that gives them ample time to come in and fill out an application.
Yes, to pick up a form from the Prevost Cinemall, to get the letter certifying that they're in need of financial assistance, and then just submit it to the Prevost Cinemall. That's all.
Right.
That's all they have to do.
It doesn't take a whole lot. All right, now we spoke about previous recipients helping out the BB Trust. Now, what about forming some sort of association, though, with those students? Is that something that the BB Trust would like to see happen?
We have thought of it, yes, of keeping tabs, of finding out what the students are doing, and then, you know, trying even to get them, as you said, to form an association among themselves. But so far, we have not really done much in that respect.
All right, so we're calling all the students out there who have received scholarships from the BB Trust to come out and show your support to the BB Trust, because I'm sure you know what the BB Trust has done for you, how it has moved your life forward. So of course we ask that you do the same for other students, and even forming an association would be a good idea. That way you can keep tabs, as you said, and we can encourage and motivate other students to pay so as much attention to their own education as the others did.
That's what you would like, yes.
Well, Mrs. Levy, is there a contact number that if someone has any questions that they can contact the BB Trust?
The forms are, the forms give the contact numbers of all of us who are trustees. Okay, so they can get that number on the forms then.
All right. Well, Mrs. Levy, I want to thank you so much for coming out to CBN4, and of course for telling us a little more about the trust. It's a very good initiative, as you said, and a lot of us, even if we're not directly impacted by the trust, in some indirect manner, if we were even probably served by someone who studied hospitality, we have benefited from what the BB Trust is doing. So we want to thank, on behalf of everyone listening, I want to thank you and the other trustees for your work and your effort that you put into the BB Trust. And thank you certainly once again for coming through to CBN.
Okay, thank you. It was a pleasure, and I hope now that people have a better understanding of what the BB Trust is about. Started because a lady from France just fell in love with our beautiful island of Dominica and wanted to assist.
Definitely. So if one lady from France can invest in our little island, why not we? Let's invest in our education, let's invest in our students and in our human resource capacity here on the island. The BB Trust is helping to do just that. Again, thanks for joining me. I'm Sheena Harry for the CBN4 exclusive. Stay tuned, lots more on the way. CBN4 keeping you covered every day.
MRC Records.